The 50 Best TV Shows Ever. There are few things better than getting stuck into a truly great TV series. The small screen doesn't feel all that small anymore with blockbuster shows that boast huge production values, incredible writing, and astonishing performances from some of the world's greatest actors. From Netflix's most bingeable box sets to top-quality HBO dramas, the best TV shows are more than worth your time. Here, in reverse order, are 50 best TV shows ever. Number 50. Columbo. From 1968 to 78 and 1989 to 2003. The beauty of Columbo, and a huge reason why it continues to be a staple in the afternoon TV schedules 45 years after its debut, is that it took a different approach. Here was a cop show that wasn't a whodunit. We know who the killer is from the off. It's not even a whydunit. It's a how he gonna get him, as Peter Falk's shabby detective slowly, painstakingly pieces together his clues, ready for the big reveal at the end. It was a glorious subversion of everything we'd been conditioned to expect from cop shows. There are few greater joys in television than watching the seemingly absent-minded lieutenant run rings around a snooty killer who underestimated him from the very second they met. The best episode? Forgotten Lady, Season 5, Episode 1. 49. Sex and the City. From 1998 to 2004. Thanks to the passage of time and two cack-handed movie spin-offs, Sex and the City has come to be seen by many as a silly show about shoes and cocktails. But beneath the layers of Prada hid a series that was smartly written and incredibly brave, even if it did totter across the screen on a pair of immaculately fitted Jimmy Choos. It's easy to forget now how groundbreaking the adventures of four sexually liberated, three plus Charlotte, Manhattan 30-somethings were not just for women on TV, but for the treatment of sex on the box. The entire vibrator industry owes Carrie and Co. an enormous debt. The best episode? The Agony and the Ecstasy, Season 4, Episode 1. Number 48. 30 Rock. From 2006 to 2013. Can it really be over? 30 Rock's brains trust have since moved on to unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, an equally madcap slice of New York icona, but we still really miss Tina Fey's NBC-set showcase of sharp writing, pitch-perfect performances, and Frank Rositano's trucker hats. NBC head honcho Jack Donaghy was the role Alec Baldwin was born to play, while that and El Generalissimo. While Faye herself is the frazzled heart of the show around whom all the madness happens, and boy is there a lot of madness. Tracy Jordan provides a good 74% of it. Best episode? Tracy Does Conan, Season 1, Episode 7. Number 47. MASH. From 1972 to 1983. This series, based on Robert Altman's 1970 film, managed to last over 3 times as long as the Korean War it used as backdrop. MASH was a searing exploration of how the doctors and the nurses of the 4077th, a mobile army surgical hospital, hence the title, used humor to get through the atrocities they were faced with on a daily basis. A sterling cast headed by Alan Alda kept this riveting and hilarious throughout its 11-year run. Meanwhile, the commentary on war continued to the very end, when in the final episode, the unit's news reporter discusses the growing conflict in Vietnam. Best episode? Point of View, Season 7, Episode 10. Number 46. The Americans. 2013 to 2018. The Cold War feels that much chillier in this inventive series, which follows the lives of 2 Russian sleeper agents who are very much awake in 1980s Washington. Complicated, passionate, and thrown together by the Mother Russia, Philip Matthew Rhys and Elizabeth Jennings, Kerry Russell, are fascinating creations driven by patriotism, but torn by the pull of their adopted home and the American family they raised as a cover. It can be vicious, it can be touching, but The Americans always delivers. Best episode? The Magic of David Copperfield 5, The Statue of Liberty Disappears, Season 4, Episode 8. Number 45, ER. 1994 to 2009. It ran until there wasn't a single member of the original cast left, at least until the spectacular reunion finale. But ER amazingly showed little sign of decline throughout its 15-year run. Based on a film script by Michael Crichton, the series evolved into a weekly slice of emergency medicine at Chicago's County Hospital, one that was separated from inferior imitators by smart scripts, great characters, and a willingness to shock. Dr. Green's bathroom attack, Lucy and Carter vs. schizophrenic knife wielder, the list of cameos, both in front and behind the camera, is as long as your arm and boasted such names as Quentin Tarantino, Kirsten Dunst, and Ewan McGregor. Best episode, Hell and High Water, Season 2, Episode 7. Number 44, Star Trek Deep Space Nine from 1993 to 1999. The perfect show for binge watching before the concept existed. In its earliest days, the spin-off to Star Trek The Next Generation felt like the storytelling was going to be by the numbers Trek, only on a space station. Flash forward a couple of seasons, and this is the show that broke the Star Trek mold, filled with flesh and blood human beings, even if they were aliens. Character arcs that frequently stretch over the course of seasons, groundbreaking storytelling and complex characters. Some complain the station-bound show doesn't go anywhere, but this is the Trek that went where none had gone before. Best episode in The Pale Moonlight, Season 6, Episode 19. Number 43, Arrested Development from 2003 to 2019. Now, the story of a groundbreaking sitcom that very nearly died a quiet, ignominious death at the hands of an indifferent network before it was saved by an internet streaming site. When it first arrived in 2003, Arrested Development was so fiendishly clever, so densely plotted, so shrewdly ironic that Fox barely knew what to do with it. Despite Fox's best efforts to bury the show in strange time slots, the Bluth family earned a feverishly loyal cult audience, one that eventually conferred upon it a Netflix rebirth. The brain-melting ambition of Season 4 may have been a noble failure for some, and Season 5 didn't necessarily correct that, but its initial run remains one of the most innovative comedies ever produced. Best episode, Peer Pressure, Season 1, Episode 10. Number 42, The Bridge, Broen, from 2011 to 2018. The title refers to the Øresund Bridge connecting Sweden and Denmark, with the show focusing on a détente between the two police forces. Like The Killing, its success came from the characters as much as the crimes committed. Front and center are the leather-trued, autistic spectrum Swedish detective Saga Noren and her alternately amused and anguished Danish counterpart Martin Rode, both outstanding performances from, respectively, Sophia Helene and Kim Bodnia. The latter's absence was keenly felt in the later series. Best episode, Series 1, Episode 10. Number 41, Fargo, 2014 to present. A standing embodiment of the advice that you shouldn't judge ideas before you see them realized. Alarm klaxons rang when it was announced that someone was going to make a TV series based on the Coen brothers' crime classic, but Noah Hawley was incredibly smart, using the movie's faux true crime trappings and small-town setting while weaving his own story into them. Throw in an anthology format that changes the game every season, and a cast that's already boasted the likes of Martin Freeman, Colin Hanks, Patrick Wilson, Kirsten Dunst, Billy Bob Thornton, Bob Odenkirk, Jesse Plemons, Ewan McGregor as twins, no less, and Mary Elizabeth Winstead and Fargo's small screen incarnation absolutely stands on its own. Best episode, Lop Lop Season 2, Episode 8. Number 40, Parks and Recreation, from 2009 to 2015. First conceived as a spin-off of The U.S. Office, Parks and Recreation initially struggled to shuffle out of the window of its bigger brother, but while the first season wobbled, the second soared and sustained that quality right the way to its emotional finale. Retaining The Office's workplace mockumentary format, it ribbed the pernickety pedantry of small-town politics from the perspective of always optimistic bureaucrat Leslie Knope, played with sheer brilliance by Amy Poehler, and propped up a faultless ensemble, perhaps most notable of all being grumpy libertarian Nick Offerman's alpha male Ron Swanson, choice quote, "I need 5 courses for dinner and each of them will be steak." Best episode, Ron and Tammy Part 2, Season 3, Episode 4. Number 39, The Walking Dead. 2010 to present. There have been zombies before. Lord knows there have been zombies, but it wasn't until The Walking Dead that people started really taking them seriously. Set in an increasingly savage post-apocalyptic society, Rick Grimes and his not particularly merry band of survivors find themselves grappling not only with the walkers, but also the undead. It's as much a show about survivalism and ethics as it is about gore and cool makeup. And it's done with characters we truly care about. While the series' astonishing viewing figures have dropped in recent seasons, it's still offering shocks and major reinventions for loyal viewers. Best episode, Here's Not Here, Season 6, Episode 4. Number 38, Monty Python's Flying Circus. 1969 to 1974. 45 episodes of bite-sized genius showcases the Pythons at their riffiest, daftest, and most out their best. A bold blueprint for British sketch comedies for years to come. Its deliberately outsized Britishness is embroidered by Terry Gilliam's surrealist animations, a little like Dali once did for Louis Buñuel, only with more giant feet and mutant chickens. The gang take turns to poke fun at the nation's bureaucrats, doves, game show hosts, and the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, among others. Its upside worldview reaches its logical conclusion when the village idiot turns out to be the smartest character in the show. Best episode, impossible to pick one, but how to recognize different types of trees from quite a long way away has the best name. Number 37, Doctor Who. 1963 to 1989 and 2005 to present. Sidney Newman, Verity Lambert, and the others who brought the world's most famous time traveler into existence knew what they were doing when they turned the need to replace a lead into one of the canniest ways to reboot and refresh the show. And so it has kept going, albeit with that 16-year blip, for more than 50 years, evolving from the days of cardboard sets and plastic monsters, which, let's be honest, were a big part of the show's charm, to the much more polished, but still incredibly fun version of today. Generations have grown up watching the series, delighting at the idiosyncratic main character and running scared from the various creatures he outwits. It's a series that prioritizes brains over brawn, shoots you off to the far corners of the universe, and is still not finished reinventing itself. What's not to love? Best episode, City of Death, Series 17. Number 36, 6 Feet Under, 2001 to 2005. Dark, comical, and really rather wonderful. It's little wonder that 6 Feet Under flowed from the same pen that gave us the equally incredible American Beauty. Alan Ball's HBO series about a dysfunctional Pasadena family who run an independent funeral home was a wonderful meditation on life, love, and grief. Headed up by Peter Cross as prodigal elder son Nate Fisher and featuring Michael C. Hall, Francis Conroy, Lauren Ambrose, and Rachel Griffiths, the cast, like every facet of this compelling production, oozed class. Best episode, It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year, Season 2, Episode 8. Number 35, Friday Night Lights, from 2006 to 2011. Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose. Yeah, you knew we were going to lead with that. But if we're describing the feeling of watching the show about a struggling Texas high school American football team, it might need to be amended to watery eyes, full hearts, sometimes lost, but we love the team anyway. Peter Berg's knowing adaptation of the H.G. Bissinger book and the 2004 movie he drew from it broadened the scope of the world and wrangled memorable characters that live and breathe. In Coach Eric Taylor by Kyle Chandler and wife Tammy, Connie Britton, we got one of the best examples of married couple on TV. And most importantly, you don't need to worship at the Church of the Gridiron to appreciate it. Best episode, Mud Bowl, Season 1, Episode 20. Number 34, Only Fools and Horses, from 1981 to 2003. The later Christmas specials may have tested our goodwill, but for most of its run, Only Fools and Horses was a sitcom that earned its status as a perennial national treasure. Del Boy and Rodney Trotter's doomed attempts to become millionaires kept the nation smiling for over 20 years, and even with constant repeats, they still managed to raise a giggle today. No matter how many times you watch the best bits, the chandelier scene, the yuppie bar fall, the Batman and Robin run, they never fail to make us laugh. Best episode, A Touch of Glass, Series 2, Episode 6. Number 33, I'm Alan Partridge, from 1997 to 2002. When Norwich City Council recently announced that they were to pedestrianize their city center, thousands took to Twitter to express mock displeasure, protesting in unison that traders need access to Dixons, to the bafflement of councillors. That's the power of I'm Alan Partridge, which in 2 series has become part of cultural lexicon, providing an endless well of absurd quotes to repeat in any given scenario. Partridge-esque is now a clearly defined adjective. Petty, bitter, entirely lacking in self-awareness, the ultimate Little Englander, Steve Coogan's Partridge is one of the most exceptional and keenly observed comedy characters ever conceived. This sitcom remains his greatest manifestation. It's a TV show which has been described as, and I quote, lovely stuff, not my words, the words of Shakin Stevens. Best episode, The Color of Alan, Series 2, Episode 2. Number 32, The Thick of It, 2005 to 2012. Political satire used to be a mere wry quip here, a raised eyebrow there, the iconic yes minister aside. Then the thick of it stormed in and told everyone fuckity bye. With Peter Capaldi's fire-breathing fixer Malcolm Tucker at its center, Armando Iannucci's foul-mouthed comedy remains one of the sharpest, fastest-witted comedies ever, skewering Britain's political class via a tornado of creative cursing, bizarrely, into the general bemusement of its creators and fans. Life has unwisely decided to imitate art. Michael Gove announced plans to have children design apps mere days after the Silicon Playgrounds episode, while George Osborne's 2012 budget was widely described as an omnishambles. Best episode, Spinners and Losers. Number 31, Curb Your Enthusiasm, 2000 to present. Part of the genius of Curb Your Enthusiasm is that it's impossible to tell where the real Larry David ends and the fictional David begins. After all, this is a man who used to go out on stage for stand-up shows, peer at the audience, and then walk off if he didn't like the look of the crowd. Every episode sees him getting into ass-puckeringly awkward scrapes with waiters, doctors, salesmen, and other celebrities from Ben Stiller to Martin Scorsese. The combination of David's lack of social skills with the right-on political correctness of LA's denizens makes for edgy, hilarious viewing. Best episode, The Doll, Season 2, Episode 7. Number 30, Star Trek, 1966 to 1969. From tiny acorns, a gigantic franchise was born, and you don't spin all those movies, follow-up series, and reboots out of nothing. But for all its limited budget, shacking, and occasionally silly aliens, the Trek universe would be nothing without the parent show. Gene Roddenberry and his team cannily brought together big ideas and intergalactic vistas that then injected a healthy, adventurous spirit into the proceedings. It's pulpy, it's fascinating, and it's probably partly responsible for the mobile phone you may be watching this on. That is Impact. Best episode, The City on the Edge of Forever, Season 1, Episode 28. Number 29, Sherlock, 2010 to present. Like Dracula, which fittingly Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss moved on to, Sherlock Holmes is one of those evergreen characters that is endlessly reinvented, either with a period-appropriate take or adapted for the present day of whoever tackles him. The creative duo plumped for the latter, bringing the great grouse detective bang up to date with texting, sexual innuendo, bromance, and gusto. Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman have long since entered the canon of great Sherlocks and Watsons, and their every move is charted by a massive enthusiastic fan base. The show is witty and wonderful. Best episode, A Scandal in Belgravia, Series 2, Episode 1. Number 28, Twin Peaks, 1990 to 2017. Who killed Laura Palmer? That was the question in everyone's lips during 1990 as David Lynch's bizarre small-town mystery unfolded on our screens. A demon called Bob, a little man who talked backward, and minor pie fetish were just some of the features on display here. But despite a healthy dose of surrealism, everything fell into place. Until the rather less appealing second season, that is, where the question in people's minds was more akin to who is Wyndham Earl and what in God's name is going on? But that's beside the point. Then, 25 years later, as promised, it happened again. A revival series directed entirely by Lynch brought back plenty of the original cast for an even darker, even more elliptically weird trip into the uncanny, proving Twin Peaks is still as confounding as it ever was. Best episode, episode 29, season 2, episode 22. Number 27, The Office UK, 2001 to 2003. Ignore those who claim that the American remake of The Office is superior, for while the Steve Carell-headed sitcom is undoubtedly brilliant, it is perhaps a bit too cheerful. The joy of Ricky Gervais and Stephen Merchant's original series was its lack of joy. In 14 episodes, it deftly depicted the wretched reality of dreary office life. It was a life of muted grace, PowerPoint training sessions, and all-pervading hopelessness. Led by a deluded boss who thinks he's everyone's mate, basically just a chilled-out entertainer. Sometimes there's nothing like a bit of old-fashioned British pessimism. Best episode, Charity, Series 2, Episode 5. Number 26, Lost, 2004 to 2010. Few TV shows grip viewers' imaginations quite like this hybrid of Swiss Family Robinsons and Twin Peaks. A Byzantine central mystery intertwined with character-centric subplots, expertly embellished through the use of flashbacks, flash-forwards, and eventually flash-sideways, kept audiences captivated and spread the focus across the entire ensemble cast. But aside from the host of colorful characters from Ernest Jack to Cocky Sawyer, Noble Jin to Bug-Eyed Ben, it was the ever-deepening mysteries that kept us coming back. What did the number mean? What was the black smoke? Who were the others? How come Hurley never lost weight despite being marooned on an island? Best episode, Exodus, Season 1, Episodes 23 to 24. Number 25, Seinfeld, 1990 to 1998. It began as a summer replacement series, and a low-rated one at that. But Seinfeld, based on the comedy of and starring Jerry Seinfeld, was given the one thing that few shows get these days: time for an audience to find it. Patience on the network's part paid off as Seinfeld, the show about nothing, became an unprecedented juggernaut. The audience fell in love with four self-centered pals whose self-involvement drew them together, turning Jerry Elaine, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, George, Jason Alexander, and Kramer, Michael Richards, into household names. Not to mention, though obviously we are, such supporting characters as Newman, Puddy, Babu Bat, George's parents, Frank and Estelle, Uncle Leo, and of course the Soup Nazi. As a reflection of society, the image is not a pretty one, but it is a classic. Best episode, The Contest, Season 4, Episode 11. Number 24, Fawlty Towers, 1975 to 1979. One of British TV's greatest ever sitcoms. The central question of Fawlty Towers, why the world's least hospitable man would go into hospitality in the first place, remains tantalizingly unanswered across 12 kipper serving, Siberian hamster hunting, German baiting episodes. A straight 0 on TripAdvisor, the very layout of Fawlty Towers itself offers comedy gold as Basil, John Cleese, his wife Sybil, Prunella Scales, waitress Polly, Connie Booth, and poor benighted Manuel, Andrew Sachs, maneuver themselves and the odd corpse around its dowdy interior without ruining anyone's stay. Basil, needless to say, fails. Often and hilariously. Best episode, The Germans, Series 1, Episode 6. Number 23, 24, 2001 to 2015. Okay, so the Live Another Day mini-series wasn't great, but at its best, there was just nothing like 24. insane levels of adrenaline, finely calibrated political intrigue and twists that hit you in the face like a two-fisted punch from Tony Almeida. 24 was some of the most cinematic TV we've ever seen, with no expense spared to depict CTU's intense battles against cunning terrorists and the odd occasional rogue president. Even when 24 was rubbish, it was still lovable. Admit it. You still have a soft spot for the cougar that menaced Kim Bauer and the show's worst ever plot device back in season 2. Best episodes: 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. season 3, episode 18, The Death of Ryan Chappelle. Number 22, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, 1997 to 2003. Imagine for a moment a world where the only version of Buffy was the movie. Terrifying, isn't it? Fortunately, Joss Whedon reclaimed his knowing meta stab at horror movies with a TV incarnation, casting Sarah Michelle Gellar as the cheerleader turned chosen one supernatural slayer and launching 1,000 memorable lines of dialogue. Buffy excelled because it ran real-world struggles through the medium of fantasy and horror and gave us great villains, romantic entanglements that felt painfully honest, and a Scooby gang we'd all hang out with, plus monsters. Best episode: Becoming Part 2, Season 2, Episode 22. Number 21, The X-Files, 1993 to 2002 and 2016 to 2018. In its 90s heyday, Chris Carter's series was the perfect stew of conspiracy theories, romantic drama, monster of the week shocker, and just the right leavening of humor when called for. David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson's Mulder and Scully deserve a place in the pantheon of TV partnerships, evidenced by the fact that the show suffered when Duchovny stepped away. Still, when it worked, really worked. Best episodes: Squeeze, Season 1, Episode 3. Number 20, The Shield, 2002 to 2008. When the very first episode of a show sees the lead shoot another cop in the face to cover up his own corruption, you know you're not watching a run-of-the-mill police procedural. A brutal look at life behind the badge, Sean Ryan's down and dirty drama basked in its protagonist's cavalier approach to right and wrong and a reliance on street justice over the letter of the law. It was to Michael Chikli's eternal credit that, despite acts of murder, torture, theft, drug distribution, and other transgressions too numerous to list, Detective Vic Mackey remained a sympathetic and highly charismatic character you just wouldn't want to get on his bad side. Best episode: Postpartum, Season 5, Episode 11. Number 19, Frasier, 1993 to 2004. Frasier was one of those rare things, a comedy series that relied on smarts and the odd pratfall to get its laughs, cleverly transposing the beloved Cheers stalwart to his hometown of Seattle and shifting the broader format of the original show to suit the unique quirks of its new characters. The most successful spin-off of all time was wordy and wise and not averse to indulging in the odd moment of high farce. Like the quality comedy theater it aspired to emulate, Frasier's appeal will continue to endure. Best episode: The Show Must Go Off, Season 8, Episode 12. Number 18, Homicide, Life on the Streets, 1993 to 1999. People use the word gritty in relation to film and TV drama all the time, but as a TV cop drama, Homicide, Life on the Street was the real deal. An avowed attempt by creator David Simon to get into the business of day-to-day procedural police work as opposed to the glossier cop show version audiences were used to. It ran for 7 seasons in the 1990s and remains incredibly influential. Testament to its quality was the ridiculous guest cast it attracted. Vincent D'Onofrio, Robin Williams, Paul Giamatti, Jake Gyllenhaal, J.K. Simmons were among those who temporarily joined the outstanding regulars. Best episode: Prison Riot, Season 5, Episode 3. Number 17, Spaced, 1999 to 2001. Spaced, in which Edgar Wright, Jessica Hines, and Simon Pegg channeled their own pop cultural obsessions and witty observations to spin gold out of a well-used sitcom idea, is endlessly rewatchable. Kicking the careers of the 3 creators up a notch, it can be uproarious, but it's also heartfelt, never forgetting to make the characters into people you care about while riffing on different genres. And the fact that only 14 episodes exist adds adds to the reason we all like it so much. It never overstayed its welcome, no matter how much we have pennied for more. Best Episode: Chaos, Series 1, Episode 5. Number 16, Mad Men, 2007 to 2015. For the unconverted, Matthew Weiner's show was just a lot of people in suits, aggressively smoking at each other. But for fans of the multi-Emmy and Golden Globe-winning AMC drama, there's magic in even the slower moments as Don Draper, John Hamm, and his advertising kin negotiate first the perils and pitfalls of Madison Avenue, then a fast-changing America, often while sloshed on whiskey. A show of great moments, the lawn mower, the death of Lane, Betty's shotgun, the LSD. It made an early bid for greatness and maintained it across 7 seasons. There aren't many shows you can say that about. Best Episode: Faraway Places, Season 5, Episode 6. Number 15, Hill Street Blues, 1981 to 1987. Launched to low ratings and audience confusion, it looked like Hill Street was destined for a short life on TV, but it endured and rightly became known as one of the most audacious series on TV. Effectively reinventing the cop drama, it eschewed much of the hard-nosed cop cliches, but used them well when embracing them, and presented a serialized mixture of drama and comedy featuring a diverse cast of 3-dimensional characters at a run-down police precinct. And Hill Street Blues is just as notable for what it led to as the show itself. It scored 98, count 'em, Emmy nominations across its run and won 8 in the first season alone, while also becoming a template for the sort of ambitious TV drama that was to follow. Best Episode: Trial by Fury, Season 3, Episode 1. Number 14, The Sopranos, 1999 to 2007. Those who tuned into the first episode of The Sopranos in 1999 found not a documentary about opera singers, but a dark, offbeat drama about a New Jersey gangster with a fixation on the ducks who visit his swimming pool. As the first season wore on, viewers became hooked on creator David Chase's uncompromising vision of an old-school criminal organization beset by all the stresses and tensions of the modern day. A fusion of sharp, unpredictable writing and powerhouse acting ensured this show classic status, spawning spoofs by The Simpsons and The Clintons, as well as an arty Booker recipe book so you can make like Tony and feast on gabagool yourself. Best Episode: Long-Term Parking, Season 5, Episode 12. Number 13, Deadwood, 2004 to 2006 and 2019. The rootinest, dudiness, sweariest show that ever dared raise its head on television? That will be Deadwood. Set in the lawless Dakota Territory town when the disenfranchised of the world descended on the Black Hills to find their fortune, David Milch's masterpiece presented the frontier townspeople as disparate souls with morals more muddy than the main thoroughfare. Happily throwing tradition notions of good and evil out the saloon window, the show constantly shifted audience loyalties, presenting a world where every act, noble or not, had repercussions. And in Ian McShane's foul-mouthed barman, Al Schweringen, we were presented with one of television's most complex and interesting characters. Best Episode: Requiem for a Gleet, Season 2, Episode 4. Number 12, The Twilight Zone, 1959 to 1964. Such is the impact of Rod Serling's series, which gathered some of the best speculative writers and stories of the time, that it keeps coming back in different forms, and its impact is felt through popular culture to this day. Aiming to explore universal concepts while creeping us out or making us think, or both, The Zone merged big ideas with popular ideals and proved that smart storytelling could work on television. One scene rarely forgotten, especially with that unnerving theme in Serling's iconic introductions. The most recent iterations is overseen by Get Out's Jordan Peele. Best Episode: To Serve Man, Season 3, Episode 24. Number 11, Cracker, 1993 to 1996 and 2006. In Edward Fitzgerald, Robbie Coltrane concocted one of the television's most memorable anti-heroes. The gambling, chain-smoking, heavy drinking, overweight psychologist may have incorporated almost every vice known to man, but viewers delighted in the ease with which he mercilessly beat lesser men to an intellectual pulp. Jimmy McGovern's tautly written drama was never concerned with a whodunit aspect. The perpetrator was generally revealed in the first scenes, but rather built up to the moment Fitz got the suspect in an interview room, assaulting them with cutting insights and outright provocation. The portly profiler bent them to his will and put the squeeze on until they finally cracked. One of the finest dramas Britain has produced, just don't mention the lamentable US remake. Best episode to Be a Somebody, Series 2, Episode 1. Number 10. The Killing, for Bride Delson. 2007 to 2012, 1 murder, 3 intricately interwoven plot lines, 20 episodes. In its home country of Denmark, The Killing's first series was supposed to be split in 2 halves, with a year's gap in the middle, but demand for the conclusion was so great it was brought forward by 6 months. As an export, it was right in the eye of a perfect storm of Danish noir. Its breakout UK success coming hot on the heels of Wallander and paving the way of Borgen and The Bridge, Sophie Grabble's chunky knit sweater became a star in itself. Best episode, Season 1, Episode 20. Number 9. Blackadder, 1983 to 1989. For a show that began expensive and extravagant and only survived the chop when its creators, including Ben Elton and Richard Curtis, agreed to turn it into a studio-bound production, Blackadder quickly entered the national consciousness for its well-constructed gags and some consummate acting from the likes of Rowan Atkinson, Tony Robinson, Hugh Laurie, Tim McInerney, and a revolving door troupe of guests. For all its formulaic nature, the show is consistently sharp and funny, and even with its 4th series, Blackadder Goes Forth showed off a beating heart of compassion. Best episode, Belle, Series 2, Episode 1. Number 8. Oz, 1997 to 2003. Long before Orange is the New Black blended humor and pain behind bars, Oz took a much darker look at prison life set in the Oswald State Correctional Facility. Bleak but brilliant, it gathered a group of characters from different walks of life and then subjected them to terrifying traumas on a weekly basis. If anyone you know shudders when they see the perfectly charming and not at all psychopathic J.K. Simmons in other roles, Oz is to blame. We highly recommend watching it if you've never caught the show, but a word of advice: if you go binging, have something lighthearted and fun to watch in between seasons. Trust us. Best episode, Revenge is Sweet, Season 4, Episode 11. Number 7. Game of Thrones, 2011 to 2019. TV and the lesser restrictions or bigger budget allowed by HBO really was the only place Thrones would have worked outside of George R.R. Martin's books. And even then, it's a juggling act given the sedate pace of the author's output. While it makes some significant changes from the printed page, much of what people enjoyed about Martin's mixture of fantasy and grimy medieval politics remains intact. With a cast led by the likes of Peter Dinklage, Emilia Clarke, Lena Headey, and Nikolai Coster-Waldau, it's full to the brim of all the death, betrayal, laughter, and dragons that you might wish for. The climax may have divided opinion, but it's hard to imagine what will fill the void now that the show's over. Best episode, Blackwater, Season 2, Episode 9. Number 6. Battlestar Galactica, 2003 to 2009. As Hollywood continues to indulge in self-consumption through a never-ending supply of reimaginings and reboots, there is one example that demonstrates what happens when it's done right. Ronald D. Moore's Battlestar Galactica, created in the shadow of 9/11, this new take on the 1978 to 79 series. Great concept, poor follow-through, brought relevancy, riveting character arcs, and a newfound grit to television science fiction as what's left of humanity fights for survival against the cybernetic cyclones as they seek the supposed lost colony, Earth. Best episode, 33, Season 1, Episode 1. Number 5. Friends, from 1994 to 2004. How is it that a certain digital TV channel can show this quintessential 90s sitcom on a virtual loop and it doesn't get old? Or that Netflix can have a juggernaut hit with it decades after its original airings? It's because Friends, at its best, is as perfect a sitcom as you will find. In its earliest days, the adventures of 6 beautiful pals, who apparently earned money by drinking coffee, featured writing much sharper than the cuddly exterior suggested. Even when the quality dipped a little mid-run, the ensemble remained perfectly matched and the best comedy collective on TV. Best episode, the one with the prom video, Season 2, Episode 14. Number 4, The Simpsons, 1989 to the present. Any show that runs for 30 seasons is bound to come in for some stick about not living up to former glory. But be honest, what could compete with The Simpsons at its height around season 46 according to most people? Still, the continuing misadventures of Homer, Marge, Bart, Lisa, and the multitude surrounding them still find plenty of scope for laughs, commentary, and pop culture nonsense. It's already in the Telly Hall of Fame and continues to bring out great episodes at a higher ratio than some of its long-running brethren. Looking at you, Family Guy. Best episode, Marge vs. Monorail, Season 4, Episode 12. Number 3, The West Wing, 1996 to 2006. For a long time, a walk-on part in The West Wing was the pinnacle to which all jobbing TV actors aspired. Smart and funny Aaron Sorkin's political drama showcased the writer's gift for rapid-fire dialogue and layered, politically resonant storylines, proving that television can be funny and insightful all at the same time. The series took a temporary downturn after Sorkin's departure at the end of season 4, but rallied soon after with a number of surprising changes to both character roles and format. It all came to a natural close at the end of President Bartlett's second term in office. The West Wing remained one of the most intelligent shows in television throughout its run, and a comforting image of what a more benevolent White House could look like. Best episode, To Cathedral, Season 2, Episode 22. Number 2, Breaking Bad, 2008 to 2013. It doesn't get really good until season 2, people said. Stick with it. The first season was not without its moments, and it laid key groundwork for Bryan Cranston's Walter White to later descend from family man to soul-shucked demon. But season 2 was when Vince Gilligan's astonishing, gripping, often plain harrowing show really took off. There followed murders, plane crashes, betrayals, ferocious set pieces, indelible dialogue, I am the one who knocks, and meth. Enormous quantities of meth. At the beginning of the binging era, here was some Class A, seriously addictive television. Best episode, 1 minute, Season 3, Episode 7. Number 1, The Wire, 2002 to 2008. You come at the king, you best not miss. There have been plenty of challengers for The Wire's crown as greatest TV show of all time, but nearly a decade after we left Baltimore, nothing has come close. The incredible achievements of David Simon's landmark crime drama have been repeated ad nauseum. At one point in the noughties, you could barely move without someone asking, "Are you watching The Wire?" But heck, they bear repeating. The way it stubbornly avoids all procedural tropes. The flawless ensemble cast, a mix of veteran actors and authentic Baltimoreans. The vast book-like world building, spanning corruptible institutions and hundreds of characters, each with their own unique and surprising arc. The ambiguous moral ground all those characters occupy. No heroes or villains here, and the intelligent, angry way it evaluates modern America, highlighting the devastating impact of neoliberal policies in the country's underclass. All that, and it still manages to be a dependably riveting drama, with emotional stakes and gallows humor in equal doses. All in the game, yo! All in the game! Best episode, Middle Ground, Season 3, Episode 11.